Let's have a quick reminder of where we are. We built a class which is called person, and we've got the fields which are private and the properties which are public. And this class is going to manage certain things that we want to do with a person when we're dealing with that person in our application. We've built a couple of methods. We've got the whole name, which joins the forename and the surname together, which is going to be useful for returning those as a complete string back to the user. And we've got a function here which is calculate age. It takes a date time and converts the birth date, the date of birth, into the number of years old. You've seen that before in the original version we did. We've also done a quick check. We're going to use the internal methods of the person class to check whether the age stated is the same as the age calculated from the birth date. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment. What we're going to do now is we're going to use that in a form. In the same way as our events took place when we clicked our Hello World button in the existing application as we've got it here, that button there, we're going to click a different button this time, which is that button, and we're going to make things happen inside the event of that button being clicked. Now here's what we did before. We created variables to hold the information and so forth, and then dealt with it as we needed. Okay. Now what I'm not going to do this time is I'm not actually going to error check the length. I'm going to make the first pass being just, we'll assume that things that need to be there are there, and we will deal with the error checking after the event so that you don't have to sit and watch through it, because you can repeat exactly the same process and apply the same principle as is used here. So there's the event for our button, class button clicked. And what we're going to do now is we have a class person, and whenever you want to use a class in an application, what you have to do is create an instance of that class. Okay? Now the instance of that class will become an object that you're using in the application. So you're going to make that instance of the class really easily by doing the type, as you would do with any other variable, person. My person is a kind of convention that I use. Equals new, create an instance please, person, parentheses, semicolon, done. We now have an object which is a class person object which we can work with and establish what it can do inside this click. So we made a good bit of progress there. Let's see how we use this class now that we've got it. We've got a my person object, and we're going to use it to work out what we need to do with the data. So the first thing we need to do is assign the data from the form. So we'll do my person dot, and we're going to do the forename first, and you'll notice that it's the public properties that are available, noted by the capital letters, equals txt forename dot text, straight text to text. The item in the text box is obviously text. My person object is a string, so no need to convert. Now I've done the other three here, and I've just added them in, but let's go through what we need to do with them. My text surname exactly the same, goes into the string objects, property there, and then age stated is an integer. So we need to convert what's in the text box from a text into an integer. Birthday is a date time, so we need to convert whatever's in the date of birth text box to a date time, and then assign it to the birthday property of the object that we've created. So that's how we gather the data from the form into our object. As I said, there's no presence checks here at the moment, so that it's just we're assuming that everything is going to be there that needs to be there. And now we'll do the next part of it, which is going to be to use this data that we now have in our person object to make some things show back to the user. What we now need to do is we need to create some variables that can be used in the form when handling the things that the class can do for us. So I've created some variables. I'm just going to copy them and paste them into the application from my text editor. Just doing that. So we'll show you then what they mean. Alright, so I've got three variables that I've got here. I've got a string which is called check message, and that's going to say age and birthday agree. Now then I've got another string which is the person whole name, which is going to be worked out from my person whole name. Now you remember that my person whole name is a built-in function that uses the forename it's got and the surname it's got and returns that back as a string by joining the two together. And then I've got a boolean which is going to be the check age, which is going to be the result of our method that we put inside the person class, which checks whether the age by birthday and the age stated are exactly the same. So whether the person has filled in the details as an age, number as an integer, and the birthday whether they agree. So that's how we're going to do those. Now it's necessary to create variables which are going to be used locally if we're going to return these items in a message, because that's what we want to do next. We want to tell the user whether the data is accurate. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste this in again, which is an if selection structure, which you've seen before and practiced with. So if check age equals true, message box show, otherwise change the message and return that back to the user. Okay, so let's just build this for a second. And then run our form. So I'm going to put my name in here. Age and birthday agree. So that's okay. So we've got that accurately now. So I've entered some data which is false. I'm going to compare this age, which I've stated, which is the wrong part of the information, with the date of birth that's been supplied, and it should now return the message, do not agree. So let's check that. Do not agree. So let's go through that again and just see what we've done to show you once again so you get the sense of what we've got. I've changed that, by the way, to a double equal. I noticed that I'd made that mistake. So we've got a class that handles the data and performs some functions. We've used some local data to return some of these methods that have been used in the class, the check age and the whole name and so forth, and then formed a message. Now this is very inelegant, this piece of code. This is very inelegant, and I would have written it a different way, but this perhaps makes it clearer for you to see what's going on. Maybe you can think of a way of making that code more elegant than it is the way it is written at the moment.